Welcome to the debate. And if you are watching us on the NFL Nexus channel, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and comment on what you thought. You can also become a channel member and get exclusive content and perks. Just click the join button below. But anyway, let's jump right into it. Today, we are looking at a really massive question about roster architecture.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one, honestly.
Right. So is a Super Bowl roster built from the ground up, cultivating rookies in the dirt, or is it bought at the penthouse level with established blue chip veterans? Following the 2026 New England Patriots and their, frankly, remarkable run to Super Bowl LX against the Seahawks, that is the exact question we have to answer. We're essentially looking at two entirely different blueprints colliding on one roster.
Exactly.
Are the Patriots fundamentally a veteran-driven powerhouse, relying on elite acquisitions to dictate their identity? Or is their true competitive advantage found in their unprecedented, aggressive youth movement, a developmental pipeline that's producing instant impact rookies? I will argue that the Patriots' strategic acquisition of elite veterans at high-leverage positions is the true catalyst that elevates this roster to a championship ceiling.
And I'll argue that New England's unprecedented reliance on rookies and second-year players, guys stepping immediately into foundational heavy-lifting roles, is the actual engine driving their success.
Right.
The veterans might get the headlines, but the youth is doing the dirty work.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. The front office is systematically using proven veterans to dictate their operational tempo. Just look at the offensive overhaul.
Okay,
They executed massive trades to acquire blue-chip receivers, A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs. By doing that, they effectively eliminated their reliance on developmental pass catchers.
Well, they didn't eliminate it entirely.
They basically did. They are signaling that they only trust known commodities to execute their passing concepts in high-leverage moments. And then, flip over to the defensive side, and you see the exact same methodology. They signed an 11-year veteran safety in Kevin Byard to anchor the secondary.
Yeah, but
This is a guy who led the NFL with 7 interceptions last year. You simply don't make those types of high-capital win-now acquisitions if you inherently trust your youth to carry the load. Without those established commodities, this roster entirely lacks a championship backbone.
I come at it from a different way, because I think we're confusing the paint job for the horsepower here.
Oh, wow, the paint job?
Yeah. The true foundation of the Patriots, like the structural reason they were physically capable of surviving a 17-game gauntlet to reach Super Bowl LX, is their extraordinary 2025 and 2026 draft classes.
They were good classes, but
They were historic classes. Think about the 2025 class alone. It yielded immediate, everyday starters like Will Campbell at left tackle, Travion Henderson at running back, and Craig Woodson at safety. These weren't just luxury rotational pieces. These were rookies asked to carry the structural weight of the franchise from day one.
sure, but that was last year.
Right, and now the 2026 class is following that exact same blueprint. You've got rookies like Gabe Jacas on the edge and Eli Raridan at tight end positioned to take over major roles immediately. The reality is that the youth pipeline is doing the heavy lifting. It's precisely because they have rookies performing at an elite starter level on cost-controlled contracts that the front office even has the financial flexibility to pull off those flashy trades for A.J. Brown and Kevin Byard.
Let's test that theory right in the secondary, because I think the dynamic between veteran wisdom and youthful athleticism is, it's absolutely fascinating there. You brought up Craig Woodson, but I look squarely at Kevin Byard.
Of course you do.
Well, we're talking about an 11-year pro who brings a level of diagnostic processing that you just can't draft. Byard boasts 36 career interceptions, which is the most in the NFL since 2016.
He's a ball hawk. Nobody is denying that.
Right, but how does he get them? It's not just raw speed anymore, it's pattern recognition. He's reading the quarterback's hip rotation, he's diagnosing the route concepts before the receivers even make their breaks, and functionally directing traffic for the entire defensive backfield.
Yeah, but he's...
That kind of processing isn't a luxury, it's a structural necessity. He seamlessly replaced Jalen Hawkins and stabilized everything. So I have to ask you, if this team is truly driven by youth, Why did the front office feel compelled to bring in an 11-year veteran to anchor the secondary rather than promoting a young depth piece like Del Pettis or Mike Brown to start full-time?
Well, I certainly acknowledge Bayard's resume, and his diagnostic ability is objectively brilliant. But you're looking at the secondary through a lens that overvalues deep coverage and undervalues the physical realities of the box.
Undervalues deep coverage. It's a passing league.
It is, but the dynamic force of that defensive backfield, like the player actually setting the physical tone, is Craig Woodson. We're talking about a player who was just a fourth-round pick last year, yet he stepped in seamlessly for established veterans like Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar.
Seamlessly is a strong word.
He was fantastic in the Super Bowl. Think about the mechanics of what Woodson is being asked to do. He isn't just playing deep half, he's stepping down into the A and B gaps. He's taking on 315-pound pulling guards and blowing up the run game, despite only being 6 feet tall.
Right.
Bayard is a great player, yes, but in the context of this specific defense, Bayard is there to play the deep third and essentially cover up Woodson's occasional over-aggressiveness in man coverage. The youth is providing the kinetic energy and the run-stopping enforcement. Bayard is just the safety net.
Okay, calling a guy who led the league in interceptions last year a safety net feels like a massive underestimation of how modern NFL defenses operate.
I don't think so.
It absolutely is. If Woodson is allowed to be that kinetic enforcer flying into the box, it is exclusively because Bayard possesses the veteran instincts to secure the back end of the defense. Without Bayard's processing speed erasing mistakes deep, Woodson's aggressiveness would be a total liability.
A total liability? That's harsh.
Quarterbacks would manipulate him with play action and throw right over his head. And honestly, your point about Del Pettis and Mike Brown only reinforces my argument. Those young players are relegated to special teams in situational depth precisely because the coaching staff understands that an elite defense requires veteran processing at the top of the depth chart.
But look at the resource allocation and the sheer physical toll of the positions. The Patriots are perfectly comfortable letting Woodson, a second-year player, take on the most physically punishing responsibilities in the secondary.
Because they have Bayard behind him.
Because they trust his processing speed in the box against the run. And let's be honest, diagnosing modern NFL run schemes, like sifting through motions, crack blocks, and pulling centers in a split second, is arguably just as complex as reading deep zone route combinations.
I disagree, but go on.
If the veteran was truly the engine, the front office would have prioritized signing a veteran box safety to set that physical tone. Instead, they turned the keys over to a fourth-round draft pick from a year ago. That speaks volumes about where their fundamental trust lies.
It's funny you mention processing speed and diagnosing complex schemes, because when we shift our focus to the offensive side of the ball, we see that exact same reliance on veteran processing dictating everything that Patriots do.
Here we go.
The offensive overhaul is arguably the clearest proof of this veteran-first mentality. Look at the wide receiver room. The Patriots have fundamentally rejected the idea of relying on youth out there. They loaded up on acquired veteran talent, specifically trading for A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs.
They still have young receivers.
They are so deeply committed to this veteran-heavy identity that they are entirely willing to discard reliable developmental youth. Take Kayshon Boutte. Here is a young developing chain mover who has improved every single season. Yet, NFL insider Albert Reer reported that Boutte could be shipped to the Washington Commanders for merely a fifth-round pick.
A fifth-round pick is still draft capital.
But why would you trade a productive young asset for a day 3 dart throw?
Because the veterans have completely locked down the depth chart. The Patriots don't have the patience for developmental receivers running the wrong option routes. The engine of this passing game is a highly paid, highly experienced veteran core that knows exactly how to read NFL leverages.
I hear the argument, but I'm just not completely sold on that logic, mainly because it ignores where the game is actually won.
On the scoreboard?
In the trenches. You're focusing heavily on the perimeter, on the wide receivers, but games are won and lost in the middle of the field and on the line of scrimmage. Shift your focus away from the boundary and look at the tight end and offensive line groups. The reliance on youth there is staggering.
Well, they had injuries. Exactly. Look at the tight end room right now. Veteran Julian Hill is lost for the year. Hunter Henry is severely limited. What does that mean for quarterback Drake May? It means his primary safety valve, the player he has to rely on to keep the chains moving on critical third downs, is Eli Raritan.
Right. The rookie out of Notre Dame.
Yes, Raritan is a third-round rookie. Yes, he posted 184 yards after the catch at Notre Dame, but doing that against ACC linebackers is a lot different than doing it against the Baltimore Ravens.
That's for sure.
Yes, the Patriots are thrusting him into an incredibly high-leverage role. They aren't going out and trading for a veteran tight end. They are trusting the rookie. The youth is bearing the structural weight of the passing game's interior. I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that the veterans are the true core. Let me tell you why. Building around an acquired star like A.J. Brown is like putting a luxury roof on a house, but relying on rookies like Riordan and Caleb Lomu is the foundation. If the foundational youth fails, the veteran roof collapses.
I love that you brought up Riordan because it perfectly illustrates a concept I think it's lost in roster analysis, which is veteran gravity.
Veteran gravity?
Yes, you call Riordan the foundation of the interior passing game, but I see him as a beneficiary of the structural advantages the veterans create.
Alters the geometry of the defense.
Okay, geometry.
Seriously, when you line up A.J. Brown on the perimeter, defensive coordinators panic. They are forced to roll their safeties to his side. Linebackers have to widen their drops to take away the in-breaking routes. Do you know what that does? It dramatically simplifies the middle of the field for a rookie tight end like Riordan.
Simplifying doesn't mean it's easy.
But Riordan isn't succeeding because he's some offensive engine. He's succeeding because the veteran gravity of A.J. Brown has pulled all the defensive resistance away from him. A.J. Brown is shielding the youth from complex bracketing coverages. The veterans are dictating the terms of engagement, which allows a rookie to operate in a sanitized, highly favorable environment.
Okay, I have to jump in here. I love the veteran gravity concept. It's a brilliant way to describe offensive spacing, and it paints a fantastic picture on a whiteboard.
Thank you.
But football isn't played on a whiteboard, it's played in the mud. Your gravity theory ignores the mechanical reality of what playing tight end in the NFL actually requires. Drake May still has to read the middle of the field, and Riordan still has to physically execute.
Of course he has to execute.
A.J. Brown pulling a safety away doesn't help Riordan when he has to inline block a 260-pound defensive end on a stretch run. It doesn't help them when he has to run a seam route, diagnose whether the Mike linebacker has inside or outside leverage, settle in the soft spot of the zone, and secure a catch while taking a brutal hit from a closing defensive back.
I'm not saying Riordan isn't talented.
A perimeter receiver cannot do the dirty work in the trenches, and a perimeter receiver cannot catch a check down on 3rd and 4 when the pocket is collapsing. The rookie tight end is performing the unglamorous, foundational tasks that literally keep the offense on the field. Without the rookie executing those gritty responsibilities, A.J. Brown never even gets the opportunity to see a deep target.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning, because it implies that Patriots are just tossing these rookies into the deep end and hoping they swim. If you look closely, the Patriots deliberately manipulate their roster to protect these young players from catastrophic failure. They use veterans as a shield.
A shield? Like who?
Let's look at the offensive line, specifically the left tackle position. They drafted Caleb Lomu in the 1st round. Lomu is an exceptional talent. I mean, in college, he had the kind of independent hand usage and lateral agility that makes edge rushers miserable. He clearly has the pedigree, but look at how the Patriots are actually deploying him.
They're playing him.
But not every down. Instead of throwing Lomu out there to the Wolves against elite NFL pass rushers on day 1, they're actively utilizing veteran Morgan Moses. They're deliberately keeping Moses on a pitch count to ease Lomu into the lineup, rotating them so the rookie doesn't get overwhelmed by complex stunt games.
That's just smart coaching.
Exactly. But if the youth were truly the engine, Lomu would be playing every single snap from the opening whistle. The front office knows that relying exclusively on rookies at premium positions is a recipe for disaster, so they strategically deploy veterans to manage the load and mitigate the risk.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered the positions where the Patriots explicitly do not have veteran shields?
Such as?
You're pointing to one specific rotational situation with Moses, but the broader roster reality completely contradicts the idea that rookies are being hidden. Let's look at the defensive front. Look at Gabe Jacas.
Okay, the 2nd round pick.
Right, 2nd round edge rusher out of Illinois, an incredibly high PFF grade in college, like a 78. He had this violent dip and rip move that just humiliated tackles. If Jacas is healthy and signs his contract, he is not being eased in.
There is no veteran Morgan Moses equivalent waiting to take his snaps on third down.
Well, they don't have the depth there.
Exactly. Jacasa is going to be the opening night starter at this team's absolute biggest position of need. The front office is relying entirely on a 2026 rookie to generate their pass rush against NFL left tackles. And it's not just the premium picks either. Look at Kayshon Boutte.
The corner from Wake Forest?
Yeah, the fifth-round cornerback. He allowed a paltry 65 passer rating in college, and the Patriots are immediately thrusting him into high-leverage special teams roles, like the gunner on punt coverage, and giving him critical depth responsibilities and sub-packages.
Patriots are putting the ball in the hands of their youth pipeline and telling them to go win the rep.
But you have to look at the economic reality of the NFL. Relying on a rookie edge rusher isn't always a philosophical preference, you know? More often than not, it's a symptom of salary cap mechanics.
So they're forced to do it.
Yes. Elite veteran edge rushers are incredibly expensive. The Patriots are allocating their massive financial resources toward A.J. Brown and Kevin Byard because they fundamentally believe that elite perimeter play on both offense and defense is the defining characteristic of a Super Bowl caliber team.
I don't know about that.
They are essentially forced to rely on Jakas precisely because they spent their premium capital acquiring the true engines of the team. And as for Prunty, utilizing a fifth-round rookie as a gunner on special teams is, as you know, standard operating procedure across the entire league. It hardly proves that youth is the driving architectural force of the roster.
So you're just dismissing them?
No, the veterans are the load-bearing beams holding up the roof. The rookies are the drywall, necessary to finish the house and make it functional, certainly, but they are not the structural elements bearing the true weight of a playoff run.
I think calling players like Will Campbell and Trevion Henderson drywall severely minimizes the sheer mechanical impact of rookie production. Let's look back at that 2025 class to understand the trajectory this team is on.
Okay.
Will Campbell stepped in at left tackle, which is one of the most technically demanding positions in professional sports, and immediately anchored the blind side. He wasn't hitting. Trevion Henderson provided an explosive dual-threat capability out of the backfield that completely transformed the Patriots' play-action passing game.
He is very fast, yes.
His speed forced linebackers to hesitate for just a half-second longer, which opened up the crossing routes. Jared Wilson stepped into the interior offensive line in the third round and solidified the pocket. These players were not complementary pieces filling in the gaps. They were the central nervous system of the team's run to Super Bowl LX.
The central nervous system? Come on.
They were. The front office looks at that 2025 class and says, this is the formula. This is how we win. And they are applying that exact same philosophy to 2026 with Jackas and Raritan. The veteran trades for Brown and Byard make the flashy headlines, but the relentless instant impact youth pipeline is what actually gives this team the physical stamina and the deep tactical flexibility to survive a grueling season.
See, I think your definition of tactical flexibility highlights exactly why veterans are so crucial. Youth absolutely provides physical stamina. No one is debating that. But veterans provide the tactical adaptability necessary to win situational football.
But the rookies are learning that.
Learning, yes, but not executing it consistently yet. Let's go back to Super Bowl LX, when the Seahawks started throwing complex, disguised coverages at the Patriots. Rolling from a too-high shell into a single-high robber right before the snap. It wasn't the rookies who seamlessly adjusted their route trees. It was the veterans.
Fair point.
When an opposing offense completely shifts its blocking scheme in the third quarter, it is a player like Kevin Byard who recognizes the adjustment, communicates the countermeasure to the front seven, and aligns the defense correctly.
But
rookies, no matter how talented or physically gifted they are, simply lack the encyclopedic database of NFL experiences required to make those split-second, high-leverage adjustments. A rookie usually is just trying to execute the play calls in the huddle. The veterans are playing the game within the game. The youth may provide the raw horsepower, but the veterans are the ones steering the vehicle.
I completely understand the value of diagnostic experience, but I think you're significantly underestimating the sheer athletic processing of this specific new generation of players.
How so?
We are no longer in an era where rookies sit on the bench for 3 years holding a clipboard to learn the complexities of the pro game. College schemes have become incredibly sophisticated. Players like Craig Woodson and Eli Raringston are entering the league already operating at a remarkably high conceptual level.
Conceptual, yes, but not NFL speed.
But they adjust fast. Woodson isn't just reacting blindly to the run. He is diagnosing complex blocking concepts pre-snap based on hours of collegiate film study. The Patriots scouting department has specifically targeted high IQ players who can process information at an NFL speed immediately.
So they don't need veterans at all?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the front office does not view their youth as a liability that needs to be steered by an older player. They view their youth as an immediate tactical weapon. The veterans are excellent complementary pieces added to a structure that is fundamentally defined by the speed, intelligence, and immediate impact of its draft classes.
To call an all-pro receiver like A.J. Brown or a league-leading interceptor like Kevin Byard a complementary piece is a pretty bold stance.
I stand by it.
These are players who command the absolute attention of the opposing coaching staff for the entire week leading up to the game. When a defensive coordinator designs a game plan against New England, priority number 1, 2, and 3 is figuring out how to mitigate the damage A.J. Brown can inflict.
Sure, he's a focal point.
That singular focus inherently dictates how the Patriots operate on every single snap. The entire offensive architecture is built around maximizing the investment in those elite acquired assets. Yes, the rookies are talented. Yes, they are required to contribute. But their contributions, like the open lanes they run through, the single coverage they face, are entirely downstream of the structural realities created by the veterans.
But what happens when that veteran asset is removed from the equation?
What do you mean, like an injury?
Exactly. Let's look at the hypothetical mechanical failure of these roster elements. If a veteran wide receiver goes down with an injury, the offense adjusts. The coordinator leans heavier on the run game, utilizes the tight ends more, or shifts the schematic approach to get the ball out quicker.
Okay.
But if the young, foundational offensive line, players like Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, and eventually Caleb Lomu, if they fail to execute their blocks, the entire offensive system collapses.
Well, obviously, without an O-line.
Drake May has no time to throw. The run game is instantly neutralized, and those elite veteran receivers you mentioned, they are rendered entirely useless because the quarterback is on his back before they can finish their routes. The structural integrity of the team relies on the youth pipeline functioning flawlessly in the trenches. The veterans might be the ceiling, but the youth is the floor. And without the floor, the ceiling simply crashes to the ground.
That actually brings us to a really fascinating point of synthesis. Because as we look at the entire scope of this discussion, we're really dissecting two masterclasses in roster construction occurring simultaneously on the same team.
Yeah, it really is impressive what they've done.
Right. I still maintain that the strategic veteran acquisitions, bringing in elite, proven commodities who understand the nuances of NFL geometry and scheme, are what elevate the Patriots from a team that simply drafts well into a legitimate, terrifying Super Bowl contender. The veterans provide the diagnostic intelligence, the gravity that alters opposing schemes, and the reliability that allows the coaching staff to execute high-level situational football.
And I'll maintain that the continuous, instant impact youth pipeline, like the extraordinary gritty production from players like Craig Woodson, Will Campbell, Gabe Jacas, and Eli Raringston, is the true structural engine that makes his entire roster mathematically and physically viable.
Right.
It is the immediate competence of the youth in the trenches and in the box that absorbs the hardest impacts of the season and provides the foundational stability required to deploy those flashy veteran assets.
But what we can absolutely agree on is that the New England Patriots front office has built a remarkably deep and beautifully balanced roster.
100%.
They've expertly married elite veteran durability and processing speed with high upside collegiate talent. They've created this fascinating dynamic where the wisdom shields the youth in some areas, while the youth provides the physical enforcement in others.
Absolutely. It really highlights the sheer value of looking at roster construction from both a pro personnel and an amateur scouting perspective. You just cannot have one without the other in today's NFL.
You really can't.
As the 2026 season unfolds,
Watching the interplay between these two distinct philosophies on the field is going to be incredibly fascinating.
It will be the ultimate test of their architectural blueprint. We've laid out the arguments for both the veteran acquisitions and the youth pipeline. We leave it to you, the listener, to decide which roster-building philosophy is truly driving New England's success. Thank you for joining us for this intellectual exchange. Until next time.